how does a product go from we're here to, oh crap, we have no money anymore?
I guess you can run through cash pretty quickly on a company if things aren't going well.
We're out of money! What? No money means no animation.
What are we gonna do?
Rather. No, we are not going home.
Smart light company Brilliant is out of money. What happens to those systems already installed? And looking at April's construction numbers and what they mean for the industry at large. All that and more on this ResiWeek. This is ResiWeek, episode 433. Bye Brilliant. This is ResiWeek, your weekly wrap-up of all the latest residential news and information for the AV industry. I'm your host, Mitchell Tulin for AVNation.tv. I'm not Matt Scott. That's pretty obvious. It seems that after last week, where we talked a lot about Sonos, Matt might be on the lam for certain comments that he made, but we'll be sure to pick him up at some point. Thankfully, in my stead, I have a lovely band of people who are much smarter than me about the residential industry. Starting off with Henry Clifford, founder of Livewire and Parasol. Thank you for joining us.
Great to be here, Mitch. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. We've also got Jason Knott, data solutions architect and evangelist for D-Tools. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Mitch. Great to be here.
Thank you. And last but not least, Jeremy Glowacki, executive editor, Residential Tech Today. Thank you for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me, Mitch. Appreciate it. And it's great we can have Jason here to preach for us as the evangelist. So I'm looking forward to that.
I always wondered about that part of the title, but yeah, I don't. That's a longer conversation that I, as a Nazarene, should know more about, but nonetheless. First story from The Verge. Brilliant, the maker of some smart home controllers and smart light switches, they're out of money. CEO Aaron Emig spoke to The Verge. The company's laid off the majority of its staff. They've shut down support. They're no longer selling products, but they're also kind of hopeful and looking for a buyer. It's a very interesting situation, especially since there's Brilliant products are already out there. We had a little discussion about Resideo investing some money in them a few years ago. I don't even know where to start with this. Jeremy, how does this happen? Like, what they go through talking about there's a price cost factor was a problem. There's sort of this weird middle ground within DIY and custom installation, but like, how does a product go from we're here to, oh crap, we have no money anymore?
Yeah, I think one of the things we were talking about was that they kind of pivoted to a builder model, trying to work with home builders or MDU builders. And if your construction is sort of lagging, or there's the interest rates are causing new builds to be a little slow. Maybe some of those relationships didn't come to fruition in time. That could have just been a bad timing situation. And also just developing a brand that stands alone against established lighting control products that are out there. There's mega brands like Lutron that not only are on the high end in the CI channel and, I guess even MDU and all that, but they're also in every big box store on a DIY level. So those are established companies. That's an established company. Within the CI channel, you've got obviously other players as well in home lighting control. But you saw this happen with Oro trying to make a play as a unique room occupancy type of lighting control product. Good UI on that. And obviously this was really a great aesthetic. This product, it still is. We won't call it dead yet, but I don't know if it's just a tough thing to establish that brand within other bigger names. And then when the market isn't where it needs to be for them, things go south pretty quickly. That investment that you referenced seemed like a sizable one to me. What do I know? I didn't major in finance, so I guess you can run through cash pretty quickly on a company if things aren't going well. I know that Henry's had some firsthand experience with the product and loves the aesthetic of it, the design of it. I have not experienced it, so maybe he could give us some insight just there from an integrator standpoint and a product reviewer standpoint.
Yeah, I wrote about it a few years ago. I thought the product is the industrial design is beautiful. I think it's something like, it looks like sort of something Johnny Ive might have birthed. It really is elegant. I think the challenge is it wasn't straight up DIY, right? You could still kill yourself installing it. So it wasn't pure play CI necessarily, and it competed for room at the table with other home technology installations in single family. So now you're going up against Control4 or Qualsys or some of these other solutions. Like if you look at any of the big national deals that were done, maybe at the time that Brilliant was sort of pushing into the market, you had Lennar doing deals with Amazon and DR Horton and some of these others. And then you have other national deals with Control4 and some of these others. So Brilliant is now in this sort of more IoT space, trying to make room at the table there. Then in multifamily, you have now CapEx versus OpEx, where the people building the apartments are sensitive to any capital expense that increases the cost of the construction. And then they're taken over by property management companies that are all about operating expenses. Well, Brilliant didn't have a services attachment play. There's no services associated with Brilliant. So I think the challenge there is they then automatically, you had to go to the builder who doesn't want to increase the price of the unit as an amenity. And it's not a super luxury amenity. So it's not full blown like at the same tier Crestron would be. You're almost going and trying to say to a builder who isn't building super luxe, hey, this could be sort of like that. And then the builder's thinking, well, do I really want to increase it? Can I lift rents, or is my rent sensitivity, gonna trap me into this? Versus the Vivint's of the world and some of these other who's are more services can offer. Like Vivint can go, hey, for $8 a door or $9 a door, I can just give you the whole thing, and you just subscribe to the entire thing. So if you're a owner or a property manager, and you're looking at, now I'm going to grow construction costs, and now I'm potentially less attractive as an investment opportunity, or I could push this off onto my property management company, who's now is able to peg this $8 or $9 a door to my Vivint or Green Marbles Alarm.com solution. There, I think Brilliant maybe is in a bad spot there. And I think for them, the other piece is everything is, 3.14 times as costly and takes us, that much more time. But I think the services, lack of services attachment was a huge downfall. And then it was never quite the same as a home automation solution, but it wasn't pure play DIY. So I think they were trapped there.
I think Henry hit the nail on the head. So we have 3 of them here in my house. So we have them, one in the master walk-in closet. We have one in the mud room, and then we have one upstairs in the playroom. And sometimes, unfortunately, just really cool products, the companies just don't make it. It is a really cool product. It has weather, so we look at it every day for the weather. It has intercom capabilities. It has voice activation. We found out the one thing that was interesting is it has also camera, which my wife changes in the master closet. So we then didn't realize that we had you have a little switch to turn off the camera, to close off the camera, which was interesting. It was very hard to see. But you mentioned Aaron Emai, the CEO, very smart guy, the $40 million investment that they got from Residio a few years back. I do think that Henry was right that it was that cross between a line voltage and a low voltage product. When I had my electrician install it, he'd never heard of it. He installed it. He thought this was the coolest thing in the world. But at the end of the day, he goes, I'd never put these in my house for that price. So we're going to end up now. Once the support goes away, which it sounds like, Mitch, it's already gone away. And we've had to, I think, call support twice and reboot in the 8 or 9 years that we've had them. So we have had to use the support function. So as they said in the article, now we're stuck with $396 light switches in our house. unfortunately. But it's a great product, and I think you're right. They were targeting the builders more focused on the builder community, and building is sagging, as we're going to talk about in a few minutes.
Yeah, that was really interesting, Henry, the way that you framed that, because I have a friend who works for a builder in the sales side, and it really it's upper mid market, I think, is what you would call the homes that they're building. So they're not luxury, but they're semi-custom or something. So what they look at are like the Ring doorbells and things like that. They're super simple, and the add-ons that they put in, it needs to be like an access control or security kind of feature. And unless that's what this is, it's really it's a premium product just for almost like an aesthetic or a little bit. I think that the intercom thing could be a feature that you could sell, but it's not a big service that I think a lot of folks realize they want, necessarily.
One of the cooler elements is that we had my daughter's pictures on there. It rotates digital images, so we'd have the girls playing hockey and those sorts of things on there, and it's kind of cool to see those on your light switches. But I'm guessing those are going to go once the next time I have to reboot, those will be probably gone away, I'm guessing.
I'm really surprised at the Oro that I have. I've got a couple of those, and they went out of business. And I was told at the time, like, they'll continue to work, but they just won't get updated. And so at a certain point, features will start to lag, I guess. And right now, there's like a little error icon on there. I just noticed for the first time today of all days. And I tried to figure out how to clear that out, but I think it's showing me some kind of a indicator of things aren't right, but it's still syncing with my Control 4 system and still dimming up and down. I don't use a lot of the features on there, so hopefully yours will still do the basic functionality of lighting control for you, but you may just lose some of those other features.
The original switches are still in the basement if I have to.
Oh, there you go.
Henry, so how do you take a risk? Like, how do you know if there's a brand like this, it had to kind of try to establish itself. It didn't quite make it here. How do you take that risk as an integrator or with your client, and say, okay, well, here's this new thing if they want it, but who knows if it's going to be supported, if it fails, then support dries up. What's that process?
I guess we never want to be the canary, and this is probably my own background in IT, was our default position when I was in the IT world was always very conservative. Like if a new update came out, we were going to let we were going to let it sit for 6 months or so until it sort of kind of rang out all the bugs, and that's proved a good strategy. In fact, I mean, just a week and a half ago, if you updated your Sonos app a week and a half ago, you're sitting there saying, why did I do that? That was really dumb. So that's always stood us in good stead. We never really want to be a canary in a coal mine. And candidly, I've always made myself the victim first. So even to this day, and candidly, I mean, I write for Jeremy and Tony, and part of the reason is to manufacture crisis for myself. So I get the products in, I put them in my own house. If my family yells at me, then I try to understand what the yelling is about, and then sort of tweak and use that to inform whether or not maybe we're going to take that on as a product. But definitely firsthand experience is a big deal. And then the other one, obviously we look for things like, margin opportunity and services attachment opportunity, but ridiculous simplicity helps. And I will say, I as a Sonos dealer, I didn't sell Sonos for a long time because of the industry stigma, which is hilarious because Sonos was a CI first brand. But then ridiculous simplicity has a way of finding its bullseye. And so brands like Sonos or Eero are probably two brands where I would describe ridiculous simplicity. It's water and it just flows downhill and it finds its mark. And so we all know in this industry that Eero and Sonos are ridiculously simple. And eventually, whether or not we all admit it or not, we find ourselves gravitating towards those brands because they just kind of work. So we do let time do its thing. We look for margin opportunity, but with things like Brilliant, when I took it out, why didn't I then turn around and make it part of the Livewire product offering? Because I didn't see a services opportunity for us, and we're very oriented towards building recurring revenue. And so because of that, it was a no. But as I see other products and they come into our world, like Juke just sent me a 6-zone amplifier. It's pretty neat, but it doesn't deserve to kind of interrupt our entire workflow as an organization. Will we sell it at some point? It's an amazing, awesome product, maybe. But I'd say that when I first entered this space, I became aware of calcification, which is this tendency, I think, as we become grown-ups to start not experiencing new, or forcing ourselves to experience new things as much. It happens with music first. Thankfully, we work in an industry full of music people, but a lot of people at age 37 start to stop listening to new music. Thankfully, I have kids, but so I'm doing this, Mitch, maybe to answer your question, like to avoid calcification, because I also think that's something that is if it's not carefully watched, it can lead to our business kind of tanking as well.
So many integrators that I've talked to over the years, and this is probably the case for Jason as well, that the words of wisdom are always, I'm not going to make my client be the beta test site. And so they definitely want it to be something they experience in their showroom, their home, whatever first. But the thing about Brilliant is they've been around for a while. So it kind of feels like they weathered those early days, and now they're maybe done from a money standpoint. So you just you can't tell sometimes that it's not going to work out, unfortunately.
Henry, you mentioned you're the guinea pig for those products, and you just kind of listen for the yelling from your family. The rest of us are very jealous that that's the only time you get yelled at.
If only.
I think we'll just jump to the next story. April's construction numbers are muted after March's poor showing. This data comes from the Government Census Bureau, of all places. April's housing constructions raised by 5.7%, which sounds pretty good until you remember that last month in March, it dropped by 17%. We're kind of seeing a interesting thing happen here, and I'm not good with the numbers, so I won't try and what does this kind of mean for integrators as this kind of looks like it's a little bit of a downturn?
Yeah, it definitely affects the integration business. There's still so many integrators who are linked closely to new home construction. I think when the housing bubble burst back in 2007, 2008, a lot of integrators diversified more into the commercial side. Then when the pandemic hit, a lot of integrators kind of went back to being really more reliant on the residential side. But this whole scenario is a vicious circle, because they have to try and control inflation, so they have to keep interest rates high. As long as interest rates remain high, housing is going to struggle. New home construction is going to struggle, and housing in general. And as a tangent to this, I just saw that the new home price numbers just came out, and it went up to a record high, another 5.5% increase in the average home price. So the bright spot out of this, Mitch, was that if you saw in those numbers, it showed that multifamily was up 31%. So what's happening is just housing is becoming, very unaffordable for many people, and they're turning to the multifamily market. It would be great. We were having a conversation earlier, Henry mentioned, about trying to find products that really can succeed in the multifamily space. I think if you're an integrator, that would be a market that I would be looking at right now.
So this almost sounds like it's more of I reminded of people with earthquakes when, is this the big one? Is this the next? So, Jeremy, I don't like to be a doom and gloom, and I definitely don't want to be the next one. But it's like we also talked about 2008. We talked the pandemic. Is this the big one? Is this some sort of menacing sign, or is this just kind of like the market's kind of stabilizing, it's dipping, and it's doing its thing?
Yeah, like you, I'm not a huge numbers guy. But it's from everything I hear, it is about the controlling the inflation, and it it it's sort of like stabilizing things right now. I feel like we weren't in a bubble. Now, housing pricing, like Jason was saying, is crazy. It's like the inflation of your home value has gone beyond what I would have ever imagined it to be. But what we're seeing is that there's a lack of inventory still, that there needs to be homes being built. We've gone through these periods where it has been a bubble where they've been overbuilding. We're definitely not in that right now. Anecdotally, you see homes for sale. There would be a period of time when existing homes would just be, snatched right up. Now you're seeing it slow down a little bit as folks kind of figure out, well, what's the right interest rate for me? What used to be considered high was, I forget what the number was. We were talking about this before, but you hear old timers talking about what home interest rates used to be, and they were like definitely double digits and higher double digits. And now we're like, what was it, 8? Is that what the number was we're talking about here? But people got used to being almost like free money, like down in the 1.5%, 2% or something, where you're barely having to pay back any interest. So I think that right now it's just kind of holding steady. It looks like it's going to be a while. It's not going to pick back up quickly, but it's just the way that they manipulate the numbers to kind of keep the economy in check. And unfortunately for our industry, it is affecting business. And hopefully the industry, the CI channel, figures out a way, again, to diversify, whether that's into the multifamily or into the light commercial again, the resi commercial. There's always ways to kind of adjust your mix of what you supply the end user, and it goes up and down depending on what the trends are. And I think post COVID, their mix went a lot more toward single family residential, and it's never good to be all eggs in one basket. You need to have that diversity in your offerings, and maybe that's what will happen here.
Yeah, actually, I was kind of thinking that, Henry, is there really, I don't know, a pure integrator? Like, I know, just like Jeremy is saying, integration, you kind of have to diversify yourself into different things. I know people are not, is there such a thing? Like, I don't want to say the resi-mercial word, even though I just did, but is there a pure residential integrator anymore? Or are we all kind of, I just say we all, like I'm in any part of this, is there any part, like, how do I explain this? Is it specialized, or we have to kind of be jack of all trades just so that we have something to do?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think I'd tag back to something Jeremy said about diversification. I think that we specialize to some extent at our own peril, unless we understand we're mining a pretty deep vein of ore. And by that, if we're going to hyper specialize in say luxury single family, right? And we live in a market like Las Vegas, and you see the migratory patterns of people, or you live in a market like Florida, or some of these other places where you have a lot of people moving into the space, a lot of companies making moves. That's great, but it's sort of like, if in God we trust, all others bring data. So if there's a sound business decision for hyper specialization, like some kind of large, deal, multi-neighborhood deal, something that keeps you busy for the next N months or years, then great. Then you've got paper to back it up. But most of us, I think, ride the shark's teeth up and down. And so having diversification, like having a commercial division and starting a light commercial, or embracing the push into lighting that our industry has been sort of talking about, and maybe adding a lighting practice to the business, helps to offset. If you've been making money with builders, you're really at the mercy of that interest rate environment. And the same thing too on the commercial side. If you're specializing only in new deals, nobody's doing commercial deals in a high interest rate environment unless they're self-financing, and nobody's doing deals in a resi environment unless now you're seeing a lot of multifamily, a lot of single family. But if you look closely at the housing starts, a 1,000 square foot home or a 2,000 square foot home still counts as a start. And so what you're seeing is a lot of carriage homes and townhomes being built that count in that start number. And also, I mean, if you look at that article, the U.S. is not monolithic, right? So you've got the Northeast, holy cow, down 24.5%. Midwest, up 11%. South, up 1.8%. And West, up 8.4%. And you could argue about what part of that is even keeping up with inflation. But my own business, we have residential, and then within that, there's a whole builder side. I've got somebody who runs our builder side, somebody who's over just residential projects. We have a pretty thriving service department. We have a whole commercial side that's actually the fastest growing part of our business right now. And then we just launched Light Sorts, which is our new lighting division. And so it might sound like we're selling apples and earth moving equipment, but really what we're doing is diversification. And then we attach services, to all that. Because what we don't want to do is be caught flat-footed, because we were around in 2008. I had to cut pay. I had to lay people off. It was not a great time. So I don't want to be back there again. And if diversification is the way to get there, and insulate us a little bit, then that's what we're going to do.
All right. That's going to do it for us this week. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Jeremy, how do we reach you or read some stuff from Residential Tech Today if we want to?
Yeah, our website is restechtoday.com, and you can check out our podcast there, and subscribe to the newsletter if you'd like, and our digital or print magazine. So thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much. Jason, how can we learn about you and what D-Tools has going on?
First of all, hope everybody can come by. If you are going to InfoComm, we'll be at InfoComm booth C8257. So stop by the D-Tools booth, and you can reach me, Jason K at d-tools.com, or follow me on Twitter at Jason W. Knott.
All right, sweet. And then Henry, thank you for joining us. How can we learn about you or Livewire or Parasol or the many things that you have going on?
Thanks again. Great to be with you guys. At Get Livewire, we're on all the social media platforms. Great to be here, and always love the conversation.
All right, thank you so much. For me, Mitchell Toolin, don't follow me. I'm going to take the Tim route on this. It's not worth it. I'm not usually on X except to look at dumb art things that aren't AV related. Instead, go to our website, avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv, where you can find shows like this, shows like A State of Control, which is all about the control programming side of things, AV Week, the commercial side of this kind of show. We're also heading to InfoComm. We've got our InfoComm June 12th to the 14th in Vegas. We'll be there. We've got a whole lot of previews already, which is why my brain is probably Swiss cheese already, because I've been doing a lot of those. So I would ask you guys to check those out, because there's a lot of cool things that are coming up during the show. And then once the show actually happens, we'll be covering those as well. And we've also got our Tweet Up, which is our annual, we're going to have to change the name at some point, but I think we're just going to stay as Tweet Up for now. Our kind of a meet and greet kind of thing where we show up and hang out and have a lot of fun. There's information on the site avnation.tv/infocom-2024, I want to say, and if it's not, then I will fix it myself. While you're there, check out our underwriters. They're the ones that are responsible for helping us make shows like this, and we thank them. So check that out as well. That is all the time we have for this episode of ResiWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.